last class we talked about curtain walls. We went over curtain walls critical issues. I want to go over that slide one more time. So this was the slide that we actually looked at. Critical issues were keeping the water out, taking care of the rain screen, outer layer, taking care of the wind driven by taking care of some of those backsplash details, thinking about capillary action. Then thinking about all of these issues with regard to the light and insulation, sound, with regard to the loads, keeping the loads out. So remember all of these issues as well as fire provision. And so we're going to go over those critical issues, and we want to think about the three zones. The three zones, the outer layer, rain screen, intermediate zone, pressure equalization chamber, zone interior. Somewhere in within zone 2 and 3, we need to take care of insulation, and we typically prefer putting the primary seal on the inside. When we were talking about capillary action, drip edge, stopping it, backsplash, if the water somehow gets in, either due to wind-driven, capillary action, or condensation, provide a system so water can get out. Slope, drip edge, all of that. All right, and keep your insulation, if it cannot take moisture, further away from that immediate surface. Your very, very first layer is zone 1. Then we did a three-dimensional building detailing like this. And we started looking at sections such as looked at section 3, which looks like this. And we literally sketched on it. Sketched on it our outside layer, rain screen. Sketched on it our interior zone, which is our gypsum wallboard, any finished material, where we would like to place our sealant. We may want to combine the sealant with the fire safing. We may want to put the sealant over here, here, as well as the fire safing that goes here. So outer layer, inner layer, and the pressure equalization chamber. This layer green that I placed it because I wanted to create a two-zone section. It doesn't have to be exactly done like this. Different curtain wall companies do it slightly different, but I'm just doing it for sake of simplicity and understanding. So I'm simply separating this area, and I'm calling this as pressure chamber 1, pressure chamber 2. Within the chamber 2, I'm placing my insulation. So over where I exited, I have metal stud area essentially, and I can put bad insulation. I can place rigid insulation on this side of it or on this side of it, or I can place my rigid insulation over here. In fact, use this layer mixed with my rigid insulation, which gives me insulation that can handle moisture. Essentially, you have those three zones. Once it hits a glass, a window, it adds layers of complexity, but nothing we didn't talk about. First, you sketch it and you start wiggling. So you have your subsill, which is this, glides the water out. Your subsill, you want to make sure it's two pieces, separating the inside from the outside, essentially working on a zone here, which takes care of your expansion. So you could think of this combination as your expansion contraction component between the outside versus the inside. Your window frame is made out of multiple pieces interlocked with all of those components that we talked about, thermal break, whip hole, all of those things, and connections which provide for expansion and contraction in both movements. Somewhere within your window frame sits your actual glazing, your glass. And then you have your glazing material placed here and here. I need to move that glass over so I can put my glazing material. I did it up above. So my glazing material goes here and here, And then I have my interior section of my window frame, exterior section of window frame. Again, this is done in a diagrammatic format. Then somehow between your window frame and your skin, again, there is a transition that again provides for water to get out. You want to make sure you control that water and you don't necessarily let it out everywhere. You may treat it as a mini gutter that then at some point it treats it. Over here again, you want to provide for ventilation, for drape, and so on. And then here's your interior ceiling. So here you can actually see what I have, and I'm just going to go through 3D so you can actually see the components here. Now I'm just going to cut a section. I'm going to go to level 3, and I'm going to look at this section this time. In this section, I am focused more on my vertical frame. Going back to the 3D. Here's my to the 3D. Three-dimensional. Here we go. If I go back to the 3D, these are my vertical frame for my curtain wall system. I want to go back to my critical issues with regard to the loads. I have building loads. I have the wall loads. I want to make sure that the building load does not transfer to the wall load, the exterior curtain wall. And so when I go to my detailing, I want to separate these vertical supports as much as possible away from my cross section from my building. So I'm going to go to level 3. I'm going to go through this section so you can see that I kept my structure away. Now I can keep my structure away just a little bit, about 4 or 5 inches, or about 2, 3, 4 inches, 4 feet, and cantilever my structure and connect with these angles. These angles, as I showed earlier to you, are, and I'm just going to go quickly like this, are sandwiching. I'm just going to quickly rotate so you can actually see the sandwich. I'm going to hide this for a second so you can actually see it. Hide the element. Here you can actually see how the vertical component is sandwiched by these 2 angles. So that's my sandwich. I'm going to go back to level 3. I'm going to look at this cross section. So essentially you have the vertical support. You have that vertical support of the wall connected by these angles. And then you have these horizontal members, these grid that goes across that gives you additional support so you can actually see the cross section, this member being supported by that cross section over there. So again, make sure you understand fully your components. So I have my building structure away. As much as possible, I would like not to transfer that load to my skin. As a result, I use these angles to support my vertical support members, and there is a clear distance away from my vertical supports and the building. Let's take a look at the section. Vertical support is here. From there to there is you have 3 to 4 inches. That space is going to provide for the fire and smoke from the lower level to come up. So what you like to do is place fire safing there so the smoke and the fire doesn't come across. You can move your angles below or this above. It's up to you, below. It's up to you. When there is a possibility of movement, you know this is going to be needed in terms of adjustment. This needs to be inspected and making sure that no fire goes from one side to the other side. So I'm going to go through cross section 3. Here you can see my interior finish and my baseboard. The baseboard gets removed. Your hand goes in here. You check the angles as well as you check the fire safing. So once again, I want to go through it, make sure that we fully understand it. Separate the structure, the building structure from the curtain wall structure. Create a vertical support as well as horizontal support, which gives you freedom in terms of your panel system. When you get to the window, don't forget all of the issues we covered in the window. You need to flush the water out. So you want to flush the water out from the bottom, flush the water from the top. You may not want it right over this. You may want to collect it at specific points. So this flashing that you have, that flashing that I have, may want to go to here, and then I dispose the water at the grooves. So then I control where the water goes. So again, water is critical. You don't want water to get in. Rain screen surface. You want to take care of the expansion. Look at this detail. It takes care of the capillary action. You want to think about expansion and contraction. You want to think about the systematic composition of the panels. Smaller units is preferred, but you want to think about your overall complexion as well. So go over my PowerPoint, think about the critical issues, go over the chink construction illustrated, and go over the critical issues. Think about the three components as you think about curtain wall systems.